Well, why don't we start with what started at 3 p.m.? Of course, we didn't have access to whatever 0 hour there was on Amazon Prime, but AEW All Out 2025 from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Well, they had a big crowd. The big set covered some of the big seats that they didn't big sell, but they still had a big crowd. What did we hear? Did they have 12 or 13,000, I believe?
I could check.
Was what they were expecting.
Yeah, look good.
But here's the thing now, what it is it's a, did you notice by the match order, it's a battle of the stars with seniority and pull as to how early you get to go on. Because they started with Edge and Christian. And Edge and Christian are like, my God, we're in Toronto. It's our first time back as a team. We're going to go out and have a tag team wrestling match with these guys. We can't let them burn the fucking people out and do everything and more that we're still physically capable of doing and with weapons. So put us on first, Tony. It'll be a great way to start the show. Perfect. It was perfect. That was a perfect way to get them in there, they were over as the hometown heroes. They're legitimate stars. Get them the maximum pop they can. Let those people have fun there. And then they have a tag team match and they get the fuck out of there before people begin being set on fucking fire. But then,
to be fair, that was in the back, not in front of the fans.
Well, no, just in front of the fans, people are only sliced open from asshole to appetite and stuffed into fucking bags.
Yes.
Or thrown through furniture.
I think that's it.
Or flung off the fucking balcony. And then, of course, MJF in the past has been the master of that, because if you notice, except for when it was a world title match and it was him and Danielson, him and Punk, it was gonna be the best thing they'd see and it was gonna be memorable. He'd be on first so he could have a match with some psychology with a crowd that hasn't been seen, several attempted murders and people being bleached and whatever. And then there's the Hurt Syndicate, who they've also got some pull and they're stars. And we're going to go out here and fucking halfway wrestle. And we don't want to be out there after the fucking trampoline cowboys get started. So now the only match of the first 4 or 5 that was really any kind of a stinker, because it involved stars that halfway knew what they were doing, even with this shitty booking, was Kingston, who they had to stick in the middle because they couldn't put that on later. Everybody knew that. But it's a brawl amongst the top guys to see who can get out of there before the people have seen every kind of goddamn damage that can be done to a human body. Anyhow, let's start with Edge and Christian and FTR. Is it the first time they have been a team in Toronto in 24 years? When did Christian leave
for TNA?
The WWE? For TNA, yes.
Was that 2005, 2006, 2007, somewhere in there?
Were they burying him at that point? They split him up? They were mad at each other? 24 years seems long.
Well, they weren't together when he left. He was doing stuff with Tyson Tomko at that point in time. It was actually the most entertaining I found him in WWE, and then he was gone, and he got a big push in TNA as a world champion.
And so did Tomko, and then he was gone. Well, nevertheless, point being, it's the first time in 24 years, and that does both make it historic and make them sound even older than I thought they were. But what was the deal? Tell me before we get to the match, what was the deal where they were walking into the arena, Edge and Christian, and their greet, I got that they were a famous hockey player was there and said hello, and he got a little bit of a pop from the people. But then who was they come up on a weird guy wearing glasses and they called him Bubbles.
Bubbles,
and
yeah.
And they're talking back and forth. I don't know what the fuck he's saying. The gentleman is challenged in some fashion.
Oh, no, not Bubbles. No.
And then they look the other way, and I swear to God, it was the same guy, right? But he's dressed in a costume as the Green Bastard. Is this some kind of goddamn goofy Attitude Era angle that they did, and they found this guy 30 years later? And what the fuck is this?
Bubbles is a character played by that guy who looks remarkably the same as he looked 15 years ago on the Trailer Park Boys, which is one of the funniest comedies of all time. And it's Canadian. So it's a popular Canadian comedy series, I guess is the word I should add there. But it's a great series, at least when Jim Leahy was there. And Bubbles on the show at one point loves wrestling, so they set up a little makeshift ring in the trailer park, and he becomes the Green Bastard.
Oh, Christ on a cracker.
On a cracker?
Well, so they got some advice, I guess, from the Green Bastard. And then they played the music, and then here came Edge.
By the way, not the only Green Bastard in AEW.
No, good catch there. We should be specific. The Green Bastard that is Bubbles with a mask on. But they played the music. Here comes Edge, and I was like, great pop and great entrance, and they've just looked like idiots doing scripted verbiage with some fellow. But they sang his song. It wasn't as enthusiastic at first, but then it picked up at the end.
At one point, it was so passionless. I was like, what the hell is going on? It's like dry and like this feels like almost they're being forced to do this.
Well, but remember, they're in Canada. So that kind of, for a lot of Canadian folks, that's being just wacky, fucking demonstrative, like crazy on acid on the streets of San Francisco. If you're actually singing with a loud voice in public.
I liked it better when you didn't feel forced to sing at wrestling. I liked it better when you could just stand in the back and...
You better sing! You better sing your hearts out!
Oh my God, dance. In some places you gotta dance too. If you go to France, you gotta dance.
You're going to dance in France, you little bastards. And then, of course, they played Cage's music, and the people chanted, "He's my asshole," because earlier when they were walking in the back with the Bubbles and the hockey guy, Bubbles and the hockey guy, sounds like a pilot from the 70s. The Edge said, well, he may be an asshole, but he's my asshole. And so they're over. The people want to see him. It's the hometown. FTR music, mild booing. I think they've completely just wrung whatever interest that people had at one time in these poor fellows out of it. And Stokely was wearing some kind of stylish hazmat suit. I don't know what that. I thought maybe they were going to fucking fill him up with helium and float him like a blimp over the fucking ring. But did you hear Tony Schiavone's opening comment at or near the bell?
I'm not sure. I mean, Tony Schiavone had various stupid comments about how great it was or how happy he was to be there, how this is what AEW is all about.
They ring the bell. And they're squaring off, and Tony said, I don't know if we've ever called a match with so much. And he can't think of the word. And there's dead air. And then Sockface jumped in and started talking to Danielson. Like, well, Brian, what do you think about that? He couldn't come up with so much emotion. So much enmity, so much goddamn rivalry and passion behind whatever the no, so much.
Somehow the commentary got worse with Danielson. And part of the problem too now is Danielson, because obviously he knows what the booking is. Danielson's screaming things And then when he stops, no one else has that energy, not the crowd or Excalibur. He's just like, this is amazing. I can't believe it. Tony Schiavone, what do you think about they just move on. Well, everyone has a different energy and it's not working.
Tony, at his age, if he tried that energy, he'd have a stroke. And Sockface can't just yell back at him, but then it's just constant screaming. And Danielson, yes, he's so excited, but also he doesn't do sound bites. He does analyses that sometimes take a while.
And then they laugh. Whenever anything bad happens, especially in front of them, you hear them laugh, and then one laughing gets the other one to laugh. So now the commentators are laughing at something that really should hurt. The whole thing is a mess. the whole thing is a mess.
Well, but having said that now, let's get back to the match, because the whole thing wasn't, the match was not a mess. The matches come later, but they worked a smart match because FTR know how to have a tag team match, and they were the ping pong balls for Christian and Edge, who know how to have a match and also are, obviously picking their spots at their age and stage of the game. And Cash and Edge did a great wrestling spot. Dax was ping-ponging for the guys. At one point, FTR did a blind tag to cut Christian off, but if anybody wants to go back and look at an example of how you actually could and should do a blind tag, but it's too small. The fans didn't see it. They were bunched up in the corner when he slapped him. They should have gone, reached behind, hand to hand, where the fans could see it, then they would have got it. But the blind tag was too small. They got some heat on Christian and worked switches around the fact that they were keeping Christian in a chin lock because they needed to conserve energy. And then, boom, Christian foiled Cash's splash and got the hot tag, and Edge made a nice comeback. Did a little "you can't see me," which woke the fans up. And then the fans started chanting, Cena, Cena. Like, oh. But they came to see Edge and Christian do stuff. They didn't really come to see this hot match or FTR get beat up or whatever. When FTR's getting the heat, they were just kind of like waiting for Edge and Christian to do something. And then finally FTR hit their suplex splash combination and got a 2 count. Boom. And Edge and Christian foiled the Shatter Machine, and Edge had a cover, and the referee goes down, and Stokely pulls the referee to the floor, which, again, has been done a lot here in modern times, but let's not nitpick. But then suddenly the music plays, and it's Beth Phoenix, and she runs down the fucking entranceway and spears Stokely on the floor. And the people are, yeah, holy shit. And Edge spears Dax, boom, and covers him 1, 2, 2 count. What the fuck? Then Beth carried Stokely out of the arena, and the match continues. Christian got powerbombed on the announce desk. Then Edge got hit with the ring bell. And then after they hit him with the ring bell, they gave him a spike pile driver. 1, 2, 2 count. What the fuck? They had it. They had it, and they won't stop. Edge stopped both FTR, but then just ran into a Shatter Machine. 2 count. Oh, for God's sake. Then they did a second Shatter Machine to Edge, but no cover. There was an awkward moment where I can only presume something was supposed to happen, or because Cash then just suddenly ran over to be tripped by Christian all the way across the ring, and Edge speared Cash 1, 2, 3. Or Dax ran over to beat. So, I don't know what the fuck, but they had it. They'd done all the false finishes. They'd done this shit, the big suplex splash, blah, blah, blah. Here comes Beth, spears fucking Stokely. Edge hits his spear. The people were there, 2 count, and then they go through all this shit. And it was awkward to begin with. But they can't quit. But it was close to a tag team wrestling match for AEW, didn't you think?
I thought it was going to be a great match, thinking about it in advance. I don't think it was great, but it was really good. It was a fine opener. Up until the finish, maybe a little bit before the finish, but up until the finish, and then, to me, it just went off the rails.
Yeah.
Especially in front of that crowd in Toronto. Who at times was the quietest Toronto crowd I've ever heard.
Well, later on, you could take a nap every once in a while in the middle of a match because they were waiting to see what looked like somebody got hurt. Because that's what gets the biggest, not somebody winning or somebody, that we love, but the biggest reactions come from that looked like somebody got hurt. But anyway, nevertheless, we're not done. No, it's only the opening match on a fucking pay-per-view. We've got to have an angle here. So suddenly they play more music. And here comes old Mama Wayne, wheeling Nick Plain out in a wheelchair on the stage. And this distraction led to FTR to be able to jump Edge and Christian from behind and Pip Sabian to come from somewhere and handcuff Edge to the ropes. While FTR spike pile drive Christian Cage. But here comes Beth back out trying to get Edge loose from the goddamn deal. And FTR starts menacing her, like standing over her. So she looks at Edge and tells him, "I love you," and kisses him, and then turns around and starts swinging away at FTR. And now okay. Dusty had his moments where he would recreate scenes from John Wayne movies too. And she starts swinging at FTR, but they grab her, and to contain her so she's not a danger to herself or others, they give her a spike pile driver. And then FTR leaves, and the doctor is checking on Beth, and nobody was getting Edge loose until finally they got the bolt cutters. And I'm not sure where Christian went in all of that. Are you? Do you remember?
Well, he was the first one laid out.
Well, but nobody ever stays laid out for long.
I don't know. I hadn't thought of it, actually. I hate to say it. I hadn't thought of where did Christian go.
I'm trying to look at my notes. What happened to him? Well, they were just, they beat him up some kind of way and threw him out. Well, he's not the most courageous son of a gun in the world anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what...
I'm taking a sip.
I thought it was just awkward pause because it was kind of deserved because of this post-match. The whole thing where Beth has music and she runs out there and it's just, it's just Beth because obviously you can't call her Beth Phoenix. WWE owns that. And she comes out there.
Well, I just called her Beth Phoenix because...
Well, you can.
Because I knew her back when.
But then, now you have like girls beating up guys on both shows. And now you have girls getting spike pile drivers on the show. It seems like a big jump. It seems like a bit much, especially to heat up this. I don't think the FTR heel run right now is really clicking with people, despite them trying to heat it up. I don't think it's working or clicking at all. And I think the fans kind of, and we've seen it. I mean, they set it up into being part of their thing, but the fans are almost like mocking them. And it's a weird way of booking top heels if any of this is intentional. But I was hoping this would end tonight, but maybe I was naive thinking that, but I was hoping everyone would kind of move on after tonight.
Well,
or last night.
But now here's the thing is that I like Beth Phoenix, and I think that she's a good talent that I don't know whether she's wanting or whether this was a one-time thing or setting up some kind of mixed tag. or, she's not getting back into business, whatever the fuck. But
they should have had her out there to confront Stokely before Edge beat him up.
Well, the point being, that's what I'm saying, is they picked this time to do that, maybe because it was in Toronto, and it just because, they live in Asheville, North Carolina, though. But they've done it the same week as the biggest mixed tag team match and the biggest husband and wife reunion in fucking wrestling history. And so it comes off, even though Edge and Beth are both stars and talents, it comes off again like maybe it's just their rotten timing. Maybe they plan to do it this time all along, but it comes off like, oh, well, we got a fucking couple, rather than a big deal. And for it to mean really anything besides a pop for the people in the building in Toronto, that Beth comes out and carries Stokely off and gets pile driven, is if in any way Stokely had any fucking heat. And that's the problem, is this just comes off like they're copying the what the big company is doing. And when's the last time that the WWE made a particularly big deal about a husband and wife combination? Since Triple H and Stephanie or whatever. So it just had to be this time. It makes it look like Herd's WCW with ding dongs trying to copy Vince's, 80s ice cream bar era.
But again, they had Beth Phoenix come out there to make the big save. And then the debut in AEW, I guess. First appearance in AEW. And then immediately she gets laid out. So I don't know about the whole thing.
Well, yeah. Unless she's just not, it was a cameo, whatever. Okay. Eddie Kingston returns after over a year. Bless his little pea-pigging heart. He got a nice pop. He got some Eddie chants. Remember when they announced this match? Why would they do this? Why would they not only have Eddie Kingston in his return booked against Big Bill, not only for the result, really, but for the match? And it was everything that a babyface return shouldn't be. He got the teetotal shit beat out of him the whole time. Now, he's had 16 months to diet and train. And is his belly a little smaller than it was, Brian? But is he a little paler to make up for it?
I thought he looked good when he had the shirt on, when he had the Claudio Sucks Egg shirt. I'm like, oh, he looks like he's lost weight. And then when he took the shirt off, I'm like, well, maybe. I can't really tell.
Well, and the thing is,
the fans were really happy to see him, though. He's the guy. Yes. He's one of these guys the fans chose, and the push never went to the place the fans wanted it to go.
And that's why this was the wrong opponent. The people wanted to see Eddie Kingston come back after this horrific injury, do his shit against somebody that'll give him a little workout, and win in 8 or 10 minutes so they can feel good. And you're preparing for the future. Because if you do that 2 or 3 times over the period of a month or two, then Big Bill could have come out and said, why is Eddie Kingston getting all this time when all he does is beat these fucking nobodies? He wouldn't last 5 minutes with me. Oh, Kingston, come out. You want to bet? And here we go. Something. But instead, his first time back in a year and a half, you have a giant that makes him look even more physically like shit, beat the shit out of him over and over, and sell nothing practically, which he shouldn't because he's a giant. But then they did the deal where in the backhand is Kingston's finish, right? The spinning backhand, which again is stupid, and you can see he's got his hand open.
This part, yeah.
But Big Bill foiled the backhand and barely hit a Bubba Slam on Kingston. After when Kingston was he made a comeback. It wasn't a good comeback, but he made a comeback. And then Big Bill stopped him again, barely got the Bubba Slam. He was spun him like 2 feet off the ground because they got their balance off. And then another one that wasn't much better. And it made it dull because once Kingston made his comeback, they should have just gone. But now he stopped him again. Then Kingston hits a DDT and hit his back fist. That should have been it again. It should have been it. 1 count. What the fuck? So then Kingston runs into a boot, but Big Bill misses a charge in the corner. Kingston schoolboys him and gets a 2 count. And then Kingston gets up and his Big Bill is still halfway down on his knees. He swung the back fist and missed it. And Tony Schiavone said, "Oh, I missed it." And I think even Excalibur said, "Glancing blow." And Big Bill just crumpled and he covered him 1, 2, 3. And then they jumped in saying, "Oh, I guess he hit him a glancing blow on the temple." God damn it. I've never seen a guy win a match and it make him look more like shit.
You know,
I'm just going the first back fist, boom, down 1, 2, 3. That's the finish. That's his finish. Comes out of nowhere. If they'd have done that, it'd have been all right. But the fucking whiffing the goddamn knockout blow on a 7-foot man put it over the top of the bottom. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know, when he first came out there, I'm like, yeah, Eddie Kingston. Everyone's into him. Good to see him back. First thing he did, I think, was like laying a chop. And I'm like, oh no, I forgot about his, like, what he's into, which is like his tribute to All Japan in the 90s. And I didn't think this was very good. And then the finish was pretty embarrassing. I mean, the fact that he missed it, and then they just still went to the finish, they still went to the pin. It looks so bad.
But do you see what I'm saying? They just rushed everything. All they had to do was bring Kingston back and show the people that he was still able to walk with all of his fucking surgeries and have him beat somebody with his back fist, and they'd been happy. And it also reminds people about his back fist that he hasn't done in a year and a fucking half. And then do it again 2 or 3 weeks later. And maybe even again. Go crazy. Just to let people know and remind them. And then you have the big fucking giant have the issue if you want to, because then you've established something instead of bringing the guy a baby face back so that he can get the shit kicked out of him and then whiff his finish and then get the shit kicked out of him by Brian Keith and old Bill until the hook sign came out.
Oh, to no reaction whatsoever. Did you hear the reaction when they hit the music and played or flashed the light? No reaction.
I didn't. No, I didn't hear the reaction. That's the point. And the giant bails from the child, Hook, and they beat up Brian Keith. And Kingston hugs Hook. So, you know, they live in the same tenement in New York, I understand. Over there in where was it that Brooklyn Heights, where Patty's only seen the sights? That's probably where they live.
A hot dog makes her lose control?
Yes. Well, one of these hot dogs looks like Kingston ate all the hot dogs.
That's not nice, and that's your review of the Eddie Kingston Big Bill match.
Yes, it was. All right, now, after we got that interlude out of the way, the next star that wanted to get on early and get the fuck out of there before anybody got set on fire was MJF. So now we get the table and thumbtacks match between MJF and Mark Briscoe. I mean, any longtime listener of the program will know that this is, in my opinion, the stupidest thing that they've ever done in wrestling is the thumbtacks, which is just ridiculous and just low rent and stupid and silly and childish and juvenile. All the other synonyms that might apply to those words. But if you've got Moxley, I mean, he can do that as well as he can do anything else. Moxley's the shits in the ring as a professional wrestler, as a worker, both psychology and physically. He's suited for the garbage shit. But both of these guys are two of the better in-ring performers on the roster in this company. Mark Briscoe, because he can have good matches with people that know how to work. He just has he's fallen into the habit of doing the hardcore stuff because they think because he came from Sandy Fork and Ring of Honor and that type of thing, that's all he can do. He can actually have matches with people that can work. He just doesn't get too often. But MJF, as we've seen, psychology-wise, can put a main event match together. He's a smart kid. So to have both of them tied up in something that any garbage wrestler can do, it makes the show look more indie and outlaw and mud show. You could have a good match with these guys if you didn't ruin the ring by dumping 2 buckets of thumbtacks in it before the match starts. And still, MJF understood and he tried to milk the idea of them falling and rolling around in the tacks and etc. and get as much mileage out of it as possible. But again, you know that Mark Briscoe, because he's not going to say no when people ask him to do something or paying him this much money, and he's done it for far less. And MJF at some point has to goddamn humor this fucking special fellow that he works for and pays him all that money and indulge him in his indie-minded goddamn outlaw wrestling fantasies. So we end up with this. And, you know, again, it's so embarrassing. Two of them, and I made notes on, and by the way, MJF was smart enough to wear big old thick white gloves. Even though they both got their shirts torn off and were rolling around in the shit, at least MJF had the gloves on. But I made notes, but why? MJF put tacks in Briscoe's mouth and backdropped him in the tacks, and then MJF took a backdrop in the tacks, and then a spine buster in the tacks. And then I wrote, Briscoe hit a dive and pulled a table out and got a chair, broke 2 tables, more bumps in the tacks. Then they pulled out a chair covered in tacks. Then MJF tombstoned him on the chair with the tacks, 2 count. And then he pulled out another table and poured 2 bags of tacks on the table. And they had a fight on the top, which was somewhat lengthy and contrived until Briscoe elbow dropped MJF through the table. And after he came off the top rope with an elbow drop to put MJF through the table that was covered with tacks, he didn't cover him. He went up to the top again and dropped another elbow drop on him. And then he picked him up. God damn it. And then he picked him up and hit a J driller in honor of his brother on the corpse, the lifeless corpse of what was once MJF. 1, 2, 3. Surprisingly enough. It just, I know they're getting paid a lot of money, But at some point, you would think that somebody would be able to say to Tony, just know, what the fuck is the matter with you? Just because we did this shit at one point when we had to work in fucking rec centers doesn't mean that we can actually do this shit for real. We don't have to do this like the other clowns that you pay a lot of money to. We can do the shit we're supposed to be doing. Anyway, low rent, one of both guys' worst matches ever because of the stupidity factor, even though MJF did try to put some logic in it. But I mean, tell me what I missed about this masterpiece.
Well, again, not my favorite kind of match. At first, I thought MJF was going to tease the whole match that he would take a bump and not take any until the very end.
And then that would be the big bump in the tax, and then here's your finish, boom.
But obviously, they were going for the gore aspect. Minimal gore compared to other things on the show now that I think about it.
Well, but then you've got the visual of the thumbtack sticking in Briscoe's bald head and in both of their backs and their arm. It's so stupid.
And Briscoe gets the win.
It's jackass. It's jackass.
And MJF loses. I don't know if that hurts him. I don't know if anything hurts him or helps him right now.
No.
But, Briscoe, who lost nonstop, got a big win to end the feud, hopefully, thankfully. Better be. And they teased already. I don't know, do you want to talk about the promo? Or did you see the promo that he did later on?
Well, let me just say that to respond to what you said, no, it's about time Mark Briscoe wins a big one. It was not about time. It's been a long, long past time. I'm not disputing the finish. I'm disputing the guy biting the head off a fucking chicken level match they had to have to get there, because these people's minds are in the indie gutter. But the promo, tell me what you're saying here.
They did a promo with the other members of the conglomeration. I think it was Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and there was another person. Hologram.
I can guarantee you I didn't see it.
And Hologram. And the whole time Kyle's on the phone and Mark Briscoe's giving a big fired up promo that the conglomeration is back. He's got his big win. Harley Cameron really hamming it up. And then they reveal that the friend that they asked to be part of the big match against the Don Callis family on Wednesday, his answer was, whatever. So they're teasing the big comeback of your favorite wrestler of 2019, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, thankfully I had forgotten about him. I thought he just went away by popular demand. What?
They're bringing back all the greatest hits of the first year. They're trying to do everything they can to get back all the people that, when they still had a spirit, they were there. But
the thing is the people they had in the first year is the reason why they lost half of the people that they had in the first year until now, because the people, they didn't like those people. Not they're longing to see them come back. They want fewer of them, not more. Anyhow, so then we were ready for the 6-man tag team match with the Hurt Syndicate and Ricochet and the Drek twins, Bishop Khan and Tia Leone. And I don't mind Bishop Khan now. Tia Leone is hopeless, but I don't mind Bishop Khan. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Do you agree with me? Did you pay enough attention to notice that Bishop Khan can actually do some shit, whereas Leone is a lost ball in high weeds?
I mean, I've seen them before. I'm not really surprised by what any of them can do or not do.
Well, they kept... And it could be under the pretext of, well, you're the big guy, so we want you to stay out. You only come in every once in a while. But I think they kept him after Wednesday night. They kept old Tia Leone out on the apron as much as possible. But Bishop Khan can move around. And MVP looked good. MVP did more wrestling again than normal because he's not only a legitimate ex-wrestler, but also a babyface manager. So he's not going to work like the manager. That was the Ricochet spot where they kept trying to tease MVP wanting Ricochet and Ricochet not wanting any of it. And also because he's the little fellow in this thing. So that was the point of the match, but they put together a match that was very well laid out, I thought. It's just that the heel team is too green and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Ricochet bounces for the big guys, and so does Bishop Khan. And at one point, MVP was beating up Ricochet, and his two partners were just standing on the floor, leaning on the apron, watching it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I don't know if they were lost or trying to figure out what their next spot was. But then when the heels stopped MVP and started working his bad leg, the fans didn't want to see MVP sell, but the heels aren't any good at getting heat. That's where, again, as I said, they laid out a good match, but they did an awkward spot, not an awkward spot, but an awkward rendition of a spot on the floor to prevent the tag, and then MVP just tagged Lashley. The heels couldn't set it up. They didn't have it. And then Lashley made a comeback and killed Ricochet, and Leone came in with the save, and he and Lashley just looked at each other and then turned away and started doing different shit. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what in the world is supposed to be happening? So then Shelton threw Ricochet everywhere, and then he threw Bishop Khan everywhere, and then he Germaned both of them, got a big pop. And Lashley hit the spear on a couple of them. And MVP and one of the other guys was slugging it out, and I'm like, they need to go. It's good now. But it seems like everybody just, has to hang on a little longer. Tia Leone hit Lashley with a chair, and everybody took a big bump on the floor, and Ricochet did a dive, and the referee was Aubrey Ed, so she wasn't counting or doing anything except standing there, with her cud being chewed. And then the big Samoan Leone took out Shelton and Lashley, but Ricochet and Bishop beat up MVP. And some way or another, I forgot. I don't think I've written down the finish here. I guess I didn't write it down. I wrote down Khan needs to be a single or find a new partner. Leone is rotten and has the charisma of mud.
I think it's Leone.
Oh, they beat MVP there somehow with something. I don't know.
I was going to say it's a weird situation when MVP is the Ricky Morton of the team. Like the guy doing all the selling and needs the tag. It's a weird thing. Obviously, the Hurt Syndicate want to work with these guys, and they're going to try to make these guys to the best of their ability. And it was, like you said, a well-laid-out match.
Yes. Unfortunately, the heels laid an egg.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's no other tag teams of grown men in this company that wouldn't be a joke to put in the ring with Lashley and Benjamin, and the people love Lashley and Benjamin. But so the fucking manager has to come in and drop the fall to try to get somebody over. Anywho, you know what was next, don't you, Brian?
I don't remember, actually.
It was Mercedes Mone versus Riho.
I remember. Did I lose you?
Now, see, at some point, I got to breathe, but I want to see how long I could do that. That's pretty goddamn amazing, wasn't it? I'm a little dizzy.
I don't know what just happened.
Riho. All right. Anyway. Quit. That's only he's saying no, thank you. That's what he's saying. No arigato. So what in the world was the Mercedes now thinks she's the female Flair? And in no way, shape, or form is she. But instead of coming out with 8 models, she comes out with 8 male twinks from some type of online service wearing her women's title belts from the various outlaw promotions. That was interesting. This was in no way a serious segment deserving of our attention and or potential critique of or even making fun of, is it? Brian, at this point, have we not determined that there's no sense in just going over the same old shit with this thing?
I think people would love to hear you break this down. I mean, obviously, it's a evenly matched matchup. The women were about the same size, it seemed like.
Yeah.
The tail of the tape? I mean, anything you want to say at all about this?
Well, I'll tell you what I can say. They gave it fucking 15 minutes plus entrances on what's supposed to be a legitimate professional broadcast. I can say that. I can say that the joke is long past over. That now that Kenny's not even here all the time, that his fascination with these low-level outlaw apartment wrestling girl groups, and the reason why that it is so embarrassing that a national television wrestling promotion for the past 5 years in any country has pulled talent, and I use that in quotation marks, from these fringe do-it-yourself, hey kids, let's put on a show organizations in Japan just to satisfy him, and still they're 6 years in, and they have Riho as a baby face that should actually, on a major event, challenge. Even though Mercedes is a shits too, she's some kind of goddamn star, and she's making millions of dollars. Isn't that like a record company signing up Taylor Swift and having her put out a duet album with his brother-in-law?
It's like a record company signing a band and saying, you know what, we're going to eat the advance and give you a whole bunch of more money. Do what you want.
So no, I can't sit there and watch this like I've been in wrestling for 50 fucking years. Like something seriously professional is being presented to me. I cannot act this way. I cannot dignify this at this point. When they get serious with Mercedes and find somebody to kick her ass, take a few of those belts away, I might watch that. But no, seriously. Again, Mercedes grabbed the referee and distracted her long enough to rake Riho's eyes, and she hit a big move on old Riho that looked good. Mercedes did. Picked her up and dropped her, boom, on her knees. Didn't cover her. Picked her up and hit her shitty finish where they start out with the girl on her back and she turns around and they fall in a heap. 1, 2, 3. And I can't believe she actually did a good looking move and then wasted it. And that was the whole idea of that's, again, I know they're not smart enough, but I would think there's people there that could explain it to them if they were willing to listen. Why did she rake the babyface's eyes, Brian? In that situation when the babyface was about to beat her, and she grabbed the referee to distract her and raked the babyface's eyes where he couldn't see it. Why did she do that?
To get an advantage over the babyface.
Yeah, because she was desperate. And she knew right then she had to cheat, and she didn't want to get caught cheating. That's a good spot. And the reason why she was desperate was because she knew and wanted the fans to know in the working universe that she was beaten if she didn't do something desperate and cheat, because that gives the babyface the out when the babyface is about to get fucked. And then once you rake the eyes, and that's the fucking difference maker, and then you grab the opponent and hit him with the goddamn big move, if you don't cover him on that, then your goddamn clock resets. Now you're no longer desperate. Now the babyface no longer has a goddamn out, because now you just pick the babyface up and fucking give him another move. Now you're in control, and the babyface, their out expired because it was all the momentum of what the people are seeing and how they subliminally react to it. Now you just made it flat because you're stupid. That's what I thought about that match. What'd you think?
Big win for Mercedes Mone and her band of Twink title holders. Another victory. She does not lose the belt. And Swami's barking because obviously it was a dog of a match, ladies and gentlemen. But Riho just returned. She has lost. We'll see if she disappears and maybe Hikaru Shida or some other challenger from the Kenny Omega Rolodex can show up and challenge Mercedes Mone. This has been Brian Last and Swami for Jim Didn't Like It News. All right, you know what that means. The Riho match is over. Jim, there was more all out.
Please stand up and in single file calmly leave the auditorium. No, there was more. There was plenty more. Next up was for the unified title, as opposed to any of the other titles. This was a three-way between Mascara, Dorito, Oblada, and our boy Take. And I'm sorry, again, we got a long road to hoe here, as Mama Cornette used to say. You got the laziest wrestler in the world. You got a 160-pound generic masked guy. And again, poor Take, who had all the potential in the world and was the best athlete and the cheapest salary of all of the Japanese imports. And he just flounders around and stares at people. He's in a heel group that he is mad at the other guy in the same heel group, or he stares at him a lot. He never speaks, but his manager never really speaks for him. He just stands around in the assemblage of various guys. So why do we care? And this title is not in any way, who gives a shit? It's just something because Tony's a mark for Oblada, the world's laziest human being. So why are we going to watch 20 minutes of contrived gymnastics? What is the purpose that we would want to see this fucking match? It took forever on Fast Forward.
In case Takeshita finally gets fed up with these heel ways of Okada. That was really the only thing they teased.
And that's...
and Danielson yelled at us about how great the Mascara Dorada victory over Beast Mortos was on Wednesday.
It was sublime, is what it was. But after 20 minutes or so, they started just standing in a fucking three-way circle and forearming each other. And finally, Okada beat Dorito with that shitty little clothesline he does. But at least the little guys can take a good bump for it. And nothing was accomplished. I would be, if I was Tony and I had access to this kind of legal advice, I would be looking into loopholes in Okada's contract so that I could free up several $1 million to hire somebody that gives a shit, and then anybody would give a shit about him. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. You get some talent that you have to pay a lot of money for. Do you just say, I'm going to get my money's worth to the best of my ability one way or another and use them on top? Or do you consider it a sunk cost? All right, I got to pay this guy, but he's going to sit on the bench.
Well, he don't care about sending other people home for 1.5 years. And not even, they don't even have to be hurt.
That's a very good point.
They don't have to be hurt. Just after Perry fucked his whole company up, he just said, go away until I want to talk to you again. And I'm sure all these people are paid regularly. And so I don't really, but I'm amazed that you'd take up the time with, anyway.
When he first got to AEW, I thought you were being too hard on Okada because I had seen him in New Japan at his peak, which was like the last period of time I really cared about New Japan. And the more I would watch him, like, well, this wasn't the night for him, or, okay, there wasn't anything great there. And the more you talked about it and the more I started watching him, he really, I don't like watching his matches. No, like you said, nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, it's like a hot 90 seconds at the end, maybe less. And he gets a victory and wins.
Every time he can save a step, every time he can go down a little easier, every time he can roll to the floor. And there's the only facial expressions are goofy fake ones. And the slump-shouldered, awkward, flat-footed way of moving around is he's David Flair in the ring. And say there's their problem is because the ones who defend this and or Tony's smoking the hopium, the wishful seeing, whatever that they're doing, maybe he was great. Even though he was great in Japan, he can't fucking speak and he has no personality, so he's only going to go so far over here. But even if he was great in Japan, they are assuming that everybody saw him in Japan. And here's the guy over here that's looking at what they're presenting now, just like all the people that on their TV show that didn't exist before 5 or 6 years ago, that had never seen Okada until whenever he came in here a couple of years ago. That's what they're seeing is what I'm seeing. What the fuck? That's what they don't get. The people that already were seeing him are seeing a memory if they're still blind to this. But everybody else is seeing, what the fuck, this fucking guy? And then you also ruin your credibility when you talk about he's the greatest tournament wrestler of all time. This fucking guy?
Yeah, by the way, before him, I don't remember anyone ever being called that on American Wrestling TV. There was no previous greatest tournament wrestler of all time.
Well, because it means nothing anyway, except to people who are wrapped up in Japanese wrestling.
And then you ask yourself a question right away, is this a tournament? Oh, no, it's not. So it really doesn't even apply to this specific match in any way.
It's just a factoid about the fellow that's in it. Anywho, you want to get to the first big one, Brian? We got to get to the first big one now because this set new standards. The Coffin match between Darby Allin and Dick the Boozer. Something's the matter with a lot of these people, is all you can say. As soon as here comes Boozer and Schaefer entering through the arena, and in the back of the building, Darby jumps them in the aisleway, in the middle of the people. And he's swinging a garbage can around. And then he runs up to the balcony and gives him a coffin drop off the balcony. And the people for a second go, holy shit, holy shit. And then they quiet down and it's complete silence while they're having an endless fight in the arena, on stairs, in the cheap seats, and down on that you can barely see. The camera can't catch it. It's not that quick of a pace. Every once in a while, they'll see somebody fall and they'll pop. And then they just walk fighted or fight walked. What would that be, Brian? Where they just hold on to each other and they walk with each other, and every 20 or 30 feet, they hit each other with a half-hearted punch or run somebody into a rail. Is that fight walking or walk fighting?
A chat and attack.
That'll work. And as they're going through, the people are laughing and they're taking their picture with their phones. And so then they go to ringside. And did you see on camera, the first good camera shot of the goddamn match was when they were climbing over the rail and Moxley was trying to get his blade out of his pocket and couldn't? Or were you paying close enough attention?
Actually, I did not see that specific shot, no.
If you go back when they fight through the building and they're coming over the rail at the ringside area into ringside, Moxley is sticking two fingers and his thumb down into his jeans pocket, trying to get his blade out, but he couldn't get it. He's fumbling. It's the announcers even said, "Oh, watch Moxley." They thought he was going to pull a screwdriver out or something. No, he wasn't. You weren't supposed to be looking at that. They called attention to it. So then, when they get over it, that's when Darby was biting him on the ear forever before they got up and he was bleeding.
Yeah, I was watching during that period of time, so I just missed it.
Okay. Well, apparently without the blade, because you see in the background of the lengthy bite, Marina Schaefer bends over and picks it up off the ground where they had been. But in the meantime, apparently he just told Darby, well, just bite my ear, because he came up bleeding. It took him forever. Or maybe Darby had a spare blade handy. But what an amateur fucking putz Moxley is. You can't put a blade in the pocket of your goddamn jeans and expect to be able to pull it out in the right fashion without anybody seeing it. Nevertheless, after the long stationary effort, Moxley's ear was bleeding. And then Moxley turned around and took forever to set up the coffin, but then Darby dove on him so both of them could fall in it. And that's the thing. This was some stunt they would do, punctuated by everybody wandering around, selling around, or trying to set up props for the next trick. At one point, Marina Schaefer was undoing the turnbuckle with a wrench. It was like she was loosening the turnbuckle, like they were going to take the rope off. You never saw anything else about it. Did you?
No, I don't think. As you say that, I am thinking about it. I remember her unscrewing it.
Why was she loosening the turnbuckle when nothing ever happened with taking the turnbuckle off?
I remember thinking, I wonder what she's going to do, and then nothing ever happened, but I forgot about it.
Did you also see that Claudio and Garcia and Yuta all came out and stood around while nothing was happening, and then he told them to leave? What did they do?
They didn't do anything. He just didn't want any help. The heel didn't want help from them.
But they didn't come out trying to help him. They just wandered out and stood around for a while. And then Schaefer walked off. And the crowd was quiet. But then they sang something lightly, but there was no action going on. But then Darby would pulled a fork out of the turnbuckle and stabbed Moxley like 15 times in the head, and there's more blood. And he got the coffin drop on the coffin end, so they broke the lid on their coffin. And then Darby again is stabbing Moxley in the ear with the fork. But Moxley gives Darby his finished double arm DDT on the coffin. And I'm thinking, again, my God, this is September 20th. It's the head-to-head competition between WWE and AEW, their big shows, premium live event, pay-per-view, whatever. And it's like the difference between what you would see at Radio City Music Hall and what you'd see at the Pink Pussy Porn Theater. And just because Moxley, again, has these fucking fantasies that he's Nick Gage and all of his toothless glory, their show looks so goddamn low fucking rent. So then at ringside, Danielson on commentary pulls out a duffel bag and gives it to Darby, and Darby gets in a duffel bag and pulls out a plastic bag and puts the plastic bag over Moxley's head and starts stomping the shit out of him and puts him in the coffin, but he doesn't have the lid shut. When here comes Pac. Remember Pac? How long's Pac been gone?
Oh, it's got to be at least 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
Well, Pac's back. And his hair is shorter. And he comes in and kicks Darby right in front. The referee is not only, they put him in this position where not only he's staring at this and can't do anything about it because it's no disqualification, lazy booking, but he doesn't even have an upset face. He's not even in the moment where he's going, no, you don't belong here, you should leave, and waving his arms. He's just standing there watching this fucking shit go on. And that's why they can't register anything with people. There's no legitimate emotion being invested in this shit because it's so over the top and stupid on a visual level. People are just waiting for somebody else to do something that looks like it hurts. And so Pac power bombs Darby over the top rope onto the coffin on the floor, and then got a body bag and put Darby in the body bag, took his time, and then put Darby in the bag in the coffin, and Moxley kicked the lid shut, and the referee called for the bell, ding, ding, ding. And they think that that somehow was a good idea. Not only number one, Darby should have won, because my God, we've been inflicted with this fucking Moxley for so long, but get some babyface over. But not only that, but even if you were going to put the heel over, it gets no heat when it's all just done right there at the heel's leisure with nobody trying to stop it and the referee standing dumbfounded and slack-jawed. So it was a rotten finish to a shitty match featuring the world's worst full-time pro wrestler. And then they all carried, the Boar Horseman came back and carried the coffin out of the arena. Oh, joy.
And the fans booed, and it wasn't the boo your heels. I think a lot of it is we don't like this Boar Horseman stuff, this Death Rider stuff. Even if you get the big return of Pac, and boy, how much charisma did he show, just standing there with his new haircut. But the baby faces get screwed over by Moxley, who is a heel that the fans are kind of sick of doing this, doing that. Even the fans that like Moxley, I don't know if they like him with this fucking all-star stable.
And it's bigger now. There's more of them.
Well, because now they have Daniel Garcia, and Pac is back.
Pac's back. So Pac, Garcia, Claudio, Useless, Schaefer, Boozer. There's 6 right there. Did I get them all?
I think so.
Jesus, it's the modern day NWO. Anywho.
Well, Jim.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, perhaps after a match like that, you have to think about all the different parties involved. And I don't just mean the 2 wrestlers who are banged up and bruised up and literally placed in body bags or coffins. But I mean the audience. That's a lot to witness. A lot to take in. You have to think about your health. You have to think about your sleep. You have to think about your mental well-being. And you know what? I think we have a friend that could help a lot of the listeners with at least something that I said, and I bet I know the man to tell them all about it.
Of the words that you said were English. That's what I was about to say and that is the point after the Coffin match there where I decided I had to eat and switch off this program so that I could replenish myself. And you know what you do after you eat, don't you, Brian? What I like to do after I eat is sleep. That's where I was going, but we got to the same place. And you know what makes you sleep and sleep well and sleep with the peace of mind and calm serenity that comes with a lack of stress and a good approach to your mental wellness? CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp. That's where we went, because I'll tell you what, folks.
Yeah.
Cornbread Hemp, right here in Louisville, Kentucky. They're taking, I've mentioned they're sponsoring all the various University of Louisville athletics now, the football, the basketball, the disc golf. They're all over the place. They're taking over the state of Kentucky because they have a fine quality product. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are made from the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. Now, for example, if you're stressed mentally, well, a CBD gummy every so often will make you feel right as rain. Let's say you're tossing and turning at night. You can't sleep, you can't relax. A CBD gummy would help you just make you right as rain. And let's say you're experiencing discomfort, like I am right now. Normally, it would make you feel better, but for the discomfort I've got right now, they'd need to make them in suppository form. But folks, I'll tell you one thing. Nevertheless, you will not have a pain in the ass with how you can order these fine products, because all you got to do is go to cornbreadhemp.com, CORNBREAD, hemp.com/JCE, and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to save 30% on your very first order. The CBD gummies formulated to work with your body, not against it, so they will grab you in a headlock from the left-hand side. I'm telling you, folks, again, cornbreadhemp.com/JCE, 30% off your first order. How can you put a price on sleep and mental healthiness and wellness?
There is no price that is acceptable. However, there is a great deal for the listeners of this show when it comes to Cornbread Hemp.
Yes.
Yes.
You are correct.
And that promo code one more time.
Yes, that is. I was trying to make sure I didn't hang up on you. I hit the wrong button. That is cornbreadhemp.com/JCE, the promo code JCE, as it always is and always shall be.
All right, there we go. We can't move on without Taigada or Arigato, whatever it may be.
Mommy toe.
Right, you never heard anyone say Inoki. I used to love when he would yell, "Thank you," to the crowd. He was so humble.
You've been a wonderful audience.
But Jim, there is more. There are still three more matches on this AEW Spectacular, and the next one was for the AEW Women's World Championship.
Well, they just had that before, see? Mercedes has 9 women's world titles.
But not this one.
Well, sooner or later she will. Toni Storm versus Thekla versus Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter. And they've been teasing a past with Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm, and they had bad feelings in their dealings before. And at least, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know what the fuck they've done here, because Toni Storm is pretty much one would assume, the most popular female talent on the roster, certainly the star of the company on the female side, right? Can you think of Since they lost old Marilyn Monroe or Blake Edwards, whatever her fucking name is.
I think to their fans, she is by far the biggest female star in the company. By far.
So they just had Chris Statlander beat her right in the middle of 1, 2, 3 with a fucking roll up.
After getting advice from Wheeler Yuta. Right? You saw that part.
Yeah. The best part of it is that's like getting advice on goddamn finances from fucking Bernie Madoff. Hey, they were 3 hours into the show and they pop us in another girls 4-way. Number one, no thanks. I'm sorry, but we had a lot of wrestling to watch. But the deal was that I popped in for the finish. And as you mentioned, then there was the advice from old Wheeler. Like he's, related to the fucking Gracie family. But you would have thought, okay, Thekla is, and I'm not knocking Chris Statlander. She's had a ton of potential. Not really comfortable on promos yet, it doesn't seem like. But she's been there forever. If they were going to do something, time was before. Thekla's new. She's different. She's odd. Very aggressive. Hayter had an issue with Storm. Out of anybody that they're going to beat Tony Storm with, they make it Statlander at this point and rolling her up with a little fucking snazzy little roll-up move. 1, 2, 3, new champion.
And seemingly rolling up Statlander into the universe of the Death Riders.
Well, they need somebody because they don't have enough people in their group. At least it's probably hard on Schaefer being the only woman. At least now they can spread that around a little bit. She'll have help. Although it appears most of the time Wheeler probably spends a lot of time in his basement playing video games, stuff, thinking about women.
All right, Jim. Well, that was the AEW Women's World Title change. We now go to
certainly
the
was
4-way ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team Championship.
We go to it. Oh boy, folks, you had Josh Alexander and Hichichichia taking on Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, taking on the Hardley Boys, taking on Bandito and Burger King in a 4-way ladder match for the tag team title. And each of these teams, of course, has qualified in other multiple team garbage matches to be in this multiple team garbage match. And we're 3.5 hours into the show. And this is the point in time now where the Lollipop Guild get to play on the trampoline in their backyards with their friends, and we are forced to watch. So, yay! Now we have fake-looking indie wrestling now with ladders. Brian, it did go with entrances. Half an hour, 30 fucking minutes. What is the purpose of watching this? It's how can you keep track of who's doing what to who, or in some cases, who's even on what team? They just go out and do shit intermittently for over and over. What is the purpose of this?
I can't answer the questions for you. I thought it was
what is the meaning of life?
I thought it was a just fine tag team, multi-team ladder match. We've seen a lot of those, it seems like. And Brodito, big win. Obviously, Tony Khan's really getting behind them.
Well, it's because he finally came up with a tag team name that doesn't sound completely stupid. Brodito sounds like something you might have heard in a fucking 90s movie, but at least it rolls off the tongue. But the big news, though, was after the match was over with. That's what everybody's talking about, because after they all play for their, half-hour recess, and then the kids scamper back to the back, the Two guys left in the ring all alone are the Buckaroos, Maddie and Nikki. And they're just standing there, but they're obviously not pitching to anything, and the cameras are not cutting away, so you know something's about to happen. And then here comes Jungle Jackoff into the ring. How long's he been? It's been a year, I guess, right? Or more. And I haven't really been counting the days because I've just gotten so relieved that we haven't had to look at him. But they stare at each other, and then Jack tackles Matt, and they all get in a fight. Now, wouldn't he? Whose side was he on when last we saw him? Wasn't he affiliated with whatever thing that they were trying to do to stay on the cards at that point, the Buckaroos?
Oh, not stay on the cards, help run the company. Remember, he turned with them to attack Tony Khan, and because they couldn't be fired, they were EVPs, he was protected. He was aligned with the Bucks, yes.
So now, a year later, he comes back, he's mad at him.
Well, if you heard any of the commentary, and if you did, I apologize, but if you heard any of the commentary, I think Excalibur said they set this up with something on their YouTube show.
Oh, Christ. Well, of course they did. Well, anyway, Rocky Romero ran in because he was just dying to get a piece of that fucking prick. But Perry dumped him too, and then the Hardley boys double super kicked him and grabbed him and were about to knee lift him, and he looked up at him and he laughed. They're big on that spot. They love that. Because as he looks up at him and starts smiling, the lights go out. And then you see on the video screen, there's Perry digging up a coffin. Now, right there, they completely lost us because anybody that looks at Perry would see that there's no way he could dig a 6-foot deep hole by himself.
Perry digging up a coffin with his cinematographer friend.
Yes, who didn't want to help with the shovel. And then he chains it to the back of his bread delivery van and drags it down the road. And now he's in a laboratory where he revives Dino Douche. Good old Luchasaurus. And then suddenly the lights come on and there's Dino in the ring and he double choke slams the Buckaroos. Now, again, the biggest pop maybe of the night was for Dino. They loved it. He's back. That part was great. When Perry showed up in the ring, people were like, okay.
However,
it was ambivalence.
When when the fans started dancing on their own to the Jungle Boy song and then they played it, I feel like it was almost like a moment of happiness amongst their fan base because it was a feeling akin to years ago when we used to come and dance to this song.
Oh boy!
Here at the AEW.
Well, yeah, and for the new viewers or new listeners out there, when Dino hugged Jack and they played Tarzan Boy, and that's what the people like because now they've got their own song that they can not only wave to but sing "whoa" in some form.
I'm really happy for the family, the estate, and the publisher of Baltimore. They were waiting for a night like this. It's been a couple of years. They didn't know if it would ever happen again.
But that's the thing. The people like Dino. The problem is he can't work, as we've seen repeatedly, and nobody there can book him to hide it. Because either they don't know how or he won't listen. Perry's back where he was 5 years ago as the stooge to the fucking big guy that they like. And now we're going to, again, so that the Buckaroos can bring together the whole Lollipop Guild, they can work with more of their friends. So we're going to see this. We waited a year for Perry to come back for him to be in the same spot he's in 5 years ago as the sidekick to the fucking large lizard.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We're going to see the Jurassic Express against the Young Bucks. They're all friends, so hopefully that means they'll have fun, cooperative matches that the fans will really enjoy. A big moment here, and a big moment. I hope they bring Anna Jay in, maybe as Jungle Girl. Put her in a loincloth, have her swing out on a rope. I don't know, go all the way with it.
What about the outfit that Marino Sullivan got to wear in Tarzan the Ape Man?
That works for me.
2 years before Tarzan and his mate, the Hayes office had taken over. Anyhow,
But this was something. Just the kind of lack of reaction when he got in, the ambivalence to it. And then, of course, while they're holding him, about to hit him, and the lights go out, the video was like a minute, maybe a minute and a half, but maybe a minute. They didn't do anything to Perry. They just stood there holding his hands, watching the video.
yeah, no, when the lights came on, he was still down there. And, well, he's used to being on his knees in front of them with them holding his hand or head or hair or something. But he had not, in any way, shape, or form tried to move.
And by the way, I know they're friends, but if you're going to reanimate anyone from wrestling history to be on your side and help you, that's who you're going to pick?
Well, see,
because that was part of it. They had a video of him bringing, like Dr. Frankenstein, bringing him back to life.
But that's the thing. You can't just reanimate anybody now. It has to be a cold-blooded reptilian because they last longer in the cryogenic thing.
So then I guess the question also is the pay-per-view in England, was Luchasaurus going to be there if Kip Sabian hadn't gotten hurt? Or did they just, instead of waiting until this to bring Luchasaurus back, which would have been even bigger if they both returned on the same night, not if we had seen Luchasaurus wrestling with the heels for the last month?
Well, now that you brought that up, that's the thing, is that now we know why that Pip Sabian was abusing Luchasaurus over the past few weeks to give him more pissed off reason to turn babyface in this.
Right, but remember when they brought him back.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. They brought him back once. He was a big heel, but he wasn't a heel because he was being abused by his partners. But now his program is with the Buckaroos instead of the people who've been slapping him around for the last month.
And when they brought him back, they had a short little vignette video, a lot shorter than the one they had here, and you only saw
probably shot at the same time.
Yeah. So that means Jack Perry brought him back, and instead of saying, like, I'll need you there for me, he's like, go help Mother Wayne in this battle against Christian.
That's right, yes. None of this makes any... And he's got 100 guys sitting home he's paying to do nothing, but he had to bring the Lizard back for a month for that match that he shouldn't have had Edge and Christian work because it took the edge off Toronto.
It's going to be interesting to see what this show becomes. In the same week, we're going to have the return of Jack Perry and the return of Orange Cassidy. So you're filling the show back up with the stars of year one.
All right, well, moving along, because we got an update on the previous stars that, Moxley and Darby had the Coffin match, right? Well, all of a sudden now we're in the back and Moxley and all of his stooges are there with the Coffin. Apparently, we're expected to believe that an hour and a half or so they had this match. The heels were allowed to carry the babyface in the Coffin out of the arena, and nobody has tried to get the fucking guy out of the coffin.
And by the way, the coffin door wasn't even closing at that point when the match ended.
No, they had broke it when they did the splashes on it, so it's just laying on top of the deal. But the point is that nobody stopped them, said, hey, let that fucking guy out. They're just back there in the back of the building, and Moxley mumbled against something. And all the stooges peel out in the truck. And then as soon as they do, the coffin lid comes off and Darby comes out with a lead pipe and hits Moxley with it and puts him in a body bag. And he's going to hit him with a lead pipe. And then he sees something. Oh, well, this is better. So he gets a spray can of some kind of shit and sprays it all over the bag and then sets the body bag on fire with Moxley in it, who's going, oh! And then a guy runs in with a fire extinguisher and a couple others drag Darby away after they put Moxley out from setting him on fucking fire.
And it burned through the bag. It wasn't like some fireproof bag because it got through the bag, if you notice.
Yeah, no, they did some kind of stunt where they said, okay, now you're gonna be here with the goddamn fire extinguisher, right? That type of deal. What these fucking morons.
The only believable part is, obviously taking law enforcement and putting that aside, I believe you could light someone on fire backstage at AEW and not lose your job.
Well, they've done it several times.
So obviously this feud isn't going anywhere.
That has a double meaning.
How do you go? What's next after a coffin match and then a post-coffin match burning in a body bag? Gabe Kidd, did we ever see Gabe Kidd again after he was dragged away in that body bag?
I forgot about that. No, he must be out in the desert. We need to get Dr. Jack Perry on that case to revive him too.
Yeah, you were counting members of the Death Group before. The not Death Triangle. The Death Riders is what they are. He's another one, I guess. He's a associate at least.
Anyhow.
Damn it. I just want the music
Thank
to play
you
once.
very much. Well, I know the people out there are thinking already, but it's time for our main event. Only 4 hours and 15 minutes into this show. So they deliberately extended the show and made this shit drone on even longer in the attempt to somehow, and Brian, I don't know why that anybody couldn't talk him out of this or explain to him the actual facts of the thing, but Tony Khan legitimately believed that if he made his pay-per-view go 5 hours, that somehow that would take viewers away from WrestlePalooza, that people wouldn't tune away from his show to tune in their show. Most of them weren't watching his show to begin with that were going to watch this thing. And many others were probably still trying to figure out how to watch the WWE show because they were confused about that. But would you think the number of people who were dissuaded from watching the WWE show at all because this thing was going into its 5th hour would be negligible or minuscule? Which one?
I can't imagine it would be a big hurt to the overall number, maybe a small blip on the live number. But remember, too, WWE announced in advance they're starting with Cena versus Brock.
Exactly.
They put it out there right away, 8 o'clock, or not 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock. This is where we're going. That's why I was surprised when the main event went as long as it did. But I don't think that hurt the WWE event. I think issues with the app and downloading it and resistance to downloading it or paying for it, those are going to be the issues.
Yeah, but this was just needlessly extending this show already that had multiple things. How many people have you heard about? We talked about we're bleeding. How many pieces of furniture so far have been broken? A guy's been set on fire. And then these two come out. Kyle Felcher and Hangnail Adam Page, or Hang Ma'am, as the internet has started calling him. And they're going to go 40 fucking minutes or whatever because they think that means they're going to have a classic world title match and really get Kyle to the next level. When in actuality, they're going to break a few more tables, but that nobody's going to bleed. Nobody's going to be set on fire. Now I bet a lot of those people in the building in Toronto were like, shit, if they'd have got this thing over in 3.5 hours, we could be home to see Brock and Cena. So their men's world title match. And again, they're calling it that. And I don't know who's the proponent of that, but it's oddly worded. It's ridiculous that anybody's going to confuse it. It's ridiculous that you should actually put the women's world title on the level of the men's world title to even differentiate them. While I'm not sure that either Kyle or Paige fits the criteria fully to challenge for the men's world title, it's just stupid wording. It's very odd. Having said that, this should have gone on in the middle of this card. There is no real issue here, and they got a boring world champion that says the same shit in the same way all the time, and he has the same kind of match same way all the time. And the only time that Paige has been different is when he's been in there with somebody that knew what the fuck they were doing, like MJF or Punk. That's the only time his matches have been different. And with Kyle, he's going to work as hard as he possibly can and do anything that he's asked to do because he's grateful to have this spot. And he seems to be a very nice young man. He's got all the physical talent in the world, but he will never learn anything in this environment about wrestling. He won't learn how to put matches together. He'll keep having matches like this. He will learn bad habits instead of proper psychology. And this may be the biggest wasted potential on the whole roster. And as I said before, I don't even think he should be in an NXT program. He should be in an OVW, where instead of 150 guys, there was 25 or 30. And there was individual instruction with on-the-job training from guys that still understood the business and the opportunity to apply it in small towns in front of small crowds without being exposed before you were ready. And Kyle could be a phenomenon. But right now, he's going to be another talented, athletic indie guy that they have to take and completely retrain when he eventually gets up there, and it may be too late. Yeah, the crowd sits staring at a lot of times and then pops on shit that looks like somebody got injured. And it's a Paige match. They do a lot of moves with the table, and Paige will go up and climb up to the top rope and backflip backwards off without looking 2 or 3 times, just because he knows the guy's supposed to catch him. And they're trying to have a classic, so that means they'll do something that should hospitalize both guys, and then they'll lay there and sell for fucking 5 minutes and then get up and be 100% again. And watching this match put me in suspended animation. I just zoned out. What's the difference between the babyface and the heel? They're both doing the same shit. What? The babyface gives the heel a tombstone pile driver on the floor and then a DDT on the floor. And then they sell forever, but then Paige climbs up to the top without looking and backflips. He's already done it once before. And Kyle moves and kicks Paige. And Kyle's up and fine after the tombstone and the DDT because now it's his turn. And then he brainbusters Paige through a table to the floor. And everybody lays there forever. And they got 15 more minutes of match to do after a brainbuster off the table through the floor. And then Kyle, I felt bad for him. The punishment that his leg was receiving when he was slapping the shit out of his own leg over and over. But if you kick Adam Page 73 times like that and it hadn't stopped him, just quit kicking him and try something else. That's what they would do. They would suddenly jump up and do 100 miles an hour leading into a stunt and then sell till the point where it was like, Jesus Christ, please get up and do anything. The Grand Canyon took less time to form. And then they had set up a table on the floor, but then they hadn't used it. They had misdirected us. But then they went back to the apron in front of the table that they had set up 15 minutes earlier, and Paige dead-eyed Kyle off the apron through the table, right on his head on the floor. And they laid there forever. And then they did a quick exchange, and then they laid there forever. Then they hopped up and they went 100 miles an hour. And Danielson was having a hernia trying to will this by sheer power of brain into being a classic wrestling match. It was the longest match I'd ever seen. And then Kyle ripped the turnbuckle pad off of the turnbuckle. Which was it the second, Brian, or was it the third time that had been done so far in the show? I lost track.
Not counting Marina Shafir. That was a different thing. I think second, maybe.
No. Yeah, no, she was just unloosening it. This was ripping the buckle off. Well, anyway, he put Paige on the turnbuckle and kicked him, and then went for the brainbuster on the turnbuckle. Then my picture froze, and the buffering started again. And it just buffered and buffered and buffered. And I couldn't get it to do anything. And then the notification came up on the screen. Something has gone wrong. Please try again later. And by the time that I could get the thing back again, it wanted me to start all the way from the fucking beginning. So I went online, and I understand that he fucking flung him off the top rope on his head and beat him.
That is correct.
Is that about what happened?
That's about what happened. After 38 minutes or so, he beat Kyle Fletcher. Adam Page did.
Yes. So, again, and again, before anybody knocks my internet, that's why I went and checked my speed. 946 over 860 something. It's just, what the...
Did you
if
pause
I really wanted to... What?
Did you pause it?
I was watching it. It suddenly just froze.
No, throughout the entire 5-hour event, did you pause it?
Oh, many times. Many times.
Maybe that triggered it so that you ran out of like the live feed.
No, this was with the next morning. This morning, when I came back, this was the last part of it. I had watched the last half of it until then with no problems whatsoever. And if it had been something I really wanted to see and I'd paid for it and it did that, I would have been fucking pissed. But it's fuck this streaming bullshit. But also the point is, again, in their minds, because they've been taught this way by whoever runs the School of Indie Wrestling. Oh, if we have a great match and it goes a long time and then I beat Kyle by the skin of my teeth, then it will get him over. No, what would have got him over was a concerted and cohesive push as an individual, not with a real manager instead of Don play acting sometimes as a manager, and an issue, a personal issue with the fucking champion, and him almost trying to fuck the champion and the champion foiling his evil deed and escaping by the skin of his teeth, not just let's do every move we know how to do until we can't do anymore and then we'll just end it. But that's what they do over here.
And again, it was hard to even focus on this. You know, for anyone who thought I was just going to watch both on different times, I watched one right into the other because I had to watch everything because we're doing this today. And I had Lesnar versus Cena on one monitor and AEW on the other, and I cared more about Cena versus Lesnar than I did about this match that didn't seem like it was going to end.
Well, of course, and that's what, again, they're kayfabing themselves in AEW, as Vince used to say, because just like with the overrun where they've lost most of their audience at the end and they shoot the big angle, They put their world title match on where anybody that was watching their show, they would have seen the world title match, regardless of whether the show had gone fucking 5 hours or not. But they put it in the goddamn position of whether now that it's 4 hours into this show and we've got this mega match on the other thing, maybe I'll come back to it and maybe they don't. Why put your world title match against a match from a much bigger company involving much bigger stars instead of getting it over so they have the choice of switching over if they want to? Because probably a number of people probably did. But
well, that was All Out.
It's another example. It's excess. It's doing the same kind of things over and over in different matches on the same show. It's wearing the live crowd out that's already basically come there just to see people hurt themselves. And they're going back to where it's like year one, which was in terms of talent, the first year was their most amateurish year because they had Pockets and they had Jungle Boy and they had the Cucamonga Kids and they had the Japanese Outlaw Girls, and it was rotten. And now they've run off the talent that they've acquired in those intervening years, and they're having to focus on these fucking backyard friends from Calabasas County or whatever. It's boy, here we go.
Well, there we go. That was AEW All Out 2025. And of course, Jim, if you said, what did I do with my day? Your family may be saying that too. They may say, hey, why are you watching wrestling all day on Saturday? They may want to sue.
You know, you told me that your wife and children were thinking of filing a class action suit against you for non-support because they never see you anymore. I think the best thing to do would be call the number one man in America that you need to call if you need to sue a son of a bitch, no matter how so-so that suing may be.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll sue the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, and the legend, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. Will handle your... Do you think does he do divorce cases? Will he sue a husband on behalf of a wife or a wife on behalf of a husband if they're mad at the other person for watching too much wrestling?
Only if it's a star.
A star on wrestling or a star that he's suing?
I think if like a country star was like, hey, Steve, I need some help. My wife, she's going to leave me because I'm watching Raw every Monday.
So you're saying that he might have been the one to say, Tammy, why not give George another chance?
Well, no, I would not say that was him. We established who that was a few weeks ago, but a great man who could help you if he has the time. Stephen,
if you're married to Tammy Wynette and Steve has the time, he'll be glad to get you out of it. Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. He's a busy man these days. He's kicking tail in a variety of locations.